What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS live stream for round 3 at the Rocket Mortgage, and then afterwards going to touch on round 2 at the LIV Golf Bedminster event. I'm really looking forward to it. Going into the weekend, have a few live lineups, particularly some 6 of 6s that are looking extra tasty. I told you guys yesterday, the famous 5-letter word from Aaron Rodgers: relax. Everyone out there that faded Tony Finau, which a lot of people out there didn't fade him. It's good on you. He's still in first place. You had guys like Cam Young come back into the fold. Will Kim is up there, and obviously Taylor Pendrith held his ground. So as a Taylor Pendrith outright ticket holder, also as somebody that has outrights on quite a few guys up there in contention, I'm feeling pretty solid right now. Wow. Now, were there some duds out there? For sure. Plenty of absolute slapdicks that, I wish I hadn't played, but that's just how DFS works, particularly when it comes to golf. There's going to be plenty of those dud plays. Let's just talk about a couple, because obviously you like to vent about it a little bit, right? You got guys like Davis Riley, right? Made a quad bogey today. If it weren't for that, would have been comfortably inside the cut line. And you would expect that to be like, from the 250-yard approach shot on that one par 5 to hit it in the water. Yes, it was on that hole, but he laid up. It was 2 wedge shots from 80 yards that he hit to the same spot on the rocks in a row that just completely derailed his round. And afterwards, what did he do? Oh, he yeeted it over the green. He wasn't going to make that mistake 3 times in a row, but oh boy, you run into that, guy's going to miss a cut. So Davis Riley, tisk, 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 right? Outside of that was playing beautiful golf. So it is what it is. A few other guys that missed the cut. Let's think about it. I guess Maverick Mcnealy, he wasn't really like a core pick for me. Like, obviously I played him this week. I thought he had some upside. He played horribly day one, looked pretty good today. So we played him in Showdown. We're able to get those shares, at least able to take advantage in that format. Ended up missing the cut, so that wasn't a surprise. Luke List, right? Horrible day one, right? Bounced back today. So that was good to have in Showdown, but ended up missing the cut. That wasn't all that great. Let's see, what else do we have? There's got to be some other slapdicks on it. Let's see. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Just remind ourselves of some of the scar tissue that we've just built up. Let's see. So first off, Gary Woodland today, he shot even par, but he had birdie opportunity after birdie opportunity. Could not cash in on one, missed the cut on the number. Guys like Kuchar, who I didn't play, I was glad to see miss the cut. Guy's an absolute slapdick to begin with. I do not like Matt Kuchar. So anytime he misses the cut, that's going to be a thumbs up for me. That's for sure. A few guys down towards the bottom of the leaderboard withdrew. Guys like Cameron Percy was actually relatively high owned. So obviously, if that was somebody like you, hate to see that. Mackenzie Hughes was also relatively high owned. He ended up missing the cut. There was a lot of chalk that made the cut, though. So when you look at the 6 of 6 percentages, much higher than your normal week. It's closer to 9 to 10% in most contests. Whereas, last week it was close to 4.5%. A few weeks before that, particularly at the majors, it was closer to 2.5%, 3% from contest to contest. So, we're back to our usual here with PGA DFS. A lot of chalk getting through, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's a lot of chalk that I'm on and a lot of chalk towards the top of the leaderboard that I decided to play. So I'm okay with it, right? Isn't the end of the world from that perspective. We'll go ahead and catch up on chat, then go ahead and hop into tomorrow's slate and see what's going on. You have Jeff down there who says, shout out to our boy DK who covers NBA DFS. He's going through some stuff right now. So yeah, shout out to him. I haven't looked into that myself. I'll have to do that, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone going out there having issues with mental health, obviously, just know that there's a lot of people out there for you. And obviously, myself included, that are willing to talk to you. So definitely, yeah, shout out to our boy DK. Nick Marsh said, smash the like button. I couldn't agree anymore. And yeah, he's the head of the Patrick Reed fan club. So yeah, not only does Nick have a bet on Patrick Reed, he obviously smashed in DFS today. So Nick just picks up on one player per week to go out there and support like no other. And he picked the right guy today there with Patrick Reed, that's for sure. I was giving him some shit for playing Patrick Reed because he plays him time after time. And obviously, he's a little bit of a volatile guy. He'll have a bunch of dud performances, but oh boy, paid off today, right? So, hey, I'll kind of be rooting them on for you there, Nick, because that would be a sweet outright to hit. Yeah, 3B says, like it up, boys. Let's get those algorithms pumping. I absolutely love that, guys. Let's get it moving. Sway says, I'm still going to panic about taking Cantlay over Finau until he passes him. Yeah, until Sunday when it's like a Cantlay-Finau playoff and they're there on the 4th hole and Cantlay sticks it to 2 feet, ends up winning the playoff, you're not going to feel good about it. But when that happens, You'll feel pretty good about it. So just remember that. Nick Mars says Usti made a Cinco bogey. Yeah, by the way, he hit 3 or 4 water balls in a row in that hole. It was a par 3. I've done that before, right? But pros shouldn't be doing that. Planet Warrior says Riley was in the top 10 in the AM and plummeted. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he was playing beautiful golf and then just completely threw it away. So it is what it is. Golf DFS is like that sometimes. I was mad about it for about 5 minutes. And then I got over the quad bogey and just it happens. Like literally every single week, there's that one guy that just completely stubs his toe for no reason. And it happened to be Riley this week. It is what it is. Jeff says, Simpson screwed me in your laps for Showdown. Yeah, I ended up fading him in Showdown today for the most part. I ended up going against him on prize picks as well. So I ended up making out on that end. But he's somebody who'll have a good round. He'll go out there the next round and suck, and then immediately come around and turn it around. He's like a roller coaster. He has no consistency in his game whatsoever. So wouldn't be surprised to see him go out there tomorrow and have a good round. So we'll talk about him at some point. Sway says Riley hurt. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I have a lot of lineups that are in the top 100 of GPPs, and I'm talking about like 20, 50,000 entry GPPs. I entered 2 of them this week that have Riley in them because of how many birdies he made. And it hurts. Like you said, if he would have just made the cut, those placement points, he probably would have been a top 20, top 30 lineup at that point in a 6 of 6. So yeah, it hurts for sure, dude. He's a slapdick, as we call him. That's why they get that label until next time out. They're going to be low owned, going to motto well. Hey, then we'll be on Davis Riley again, right? But as for right now, this weekend, he's certainly a slapdick. Let's go ahead and hop into this thing for tomorrow, though. Stop talking about the first 2 days. You guys are here, of course, for our preview for Saturday. And we're going to start with the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So like I mentioned, we'll mention the weather. We'll talk through some of the strategy talk, a few of the featured plays that I have for you for my Showdown projections. And then we'll hop over to the LIV Golf side. So just looking at some of the stats from today, it actually played a little bit more difficult, which with the winds being lower here on Friday, I think most of us, myself included, expected it to play a little bit easier. And that just wasn't the case. If I had to take a guess, and again, it's just a guess at this point, I don't know this for a concrete fact, for the reason why, it would be pin location. There were plenty of putts today that were missed within that 4 to 5 foot range. Some of them for par even that were just brutal to watch. But plenty of birdie putts, particularly from that like 5 to 10 foot range, that were just being jarred in bunches there in round 1. So I would imagine the pin locations probably had a lot to do with that, but I don't know for certain. I mean, outside of that, the winds were lower. There was rain there on Thursday afternoon, if you guys remember. It rained for like 5 to 10 minutes. So if anything, the greens probably should have been at least comparable in terms of their receptiveness, maybe slightly more firm. It shouldn't have been 0.4 shots more difficult. So perhaps it was due to the pin locations. But here for Saturday, moving day is infamous for a reason. They give you a risk reward, pin locations, shots where if you're on your game, you're going to be hitting greens in regulation, you're going to have a good chance to score. Usually they're in bowls. That's kind of what moving day is known for. If you're going to hit a good iron shot, not only are you going to hit a good iron shot, they're going to reward you for it. So they, by design, try to choose some of the bowls to give you that effect. If that's going to be the case, I expect a scoring average closer to what we saw for day 1, if not slightly better. In fact, I'm projecting for right around a 1.5 under par average. The reason for that, not only with the conditions with moving day pins, do I expect it to be a little bit gettable out there. Again, I expect them to want the players to go out there, go pin seeking, try and take this place low. That's kind of been its identity over the first 3 years. I'm also expecting the field to be better, right? They cut out a lot of the lower quality players, a lot of the guys that were qualifiers, Korn Ferry Tour players that got in here as Monday qualifiers, whatever the case may be, just guys that weren't in form that missed the cut. They're no longer going to be factored into this average. So when we come here tomorrow night and we're looking at, round 4 Showdown, don't be surprised when the scoring average is like 1.45 shots under par. I'll give you like an exact number there. That'll be my Price is Right guess of the day. But I'm expecting it to play easier than we saw today, both due to pin locations and the wind. If you look at it, it's going to be beautiful. You have pretty much no wind the entire day. You have 5 to 7 miles an hour of sustained winds. And then the wind gusts, you can see pretty much non-existent in the morning towards 11 a.m. And really, this is the only point of the day where there's any wind gusts whatsoever. It's 10 miles an hour. Oh boy, right? They gets to the double digits in terms of the wind gusts. Just nothing to worry about. It's going to be pristine conditions for these players. And honestly, this 10 miles an hour window right here is probably just noise. It's tomorrow morning. Don't be surprised if you wake up and it's just flat winds across the board, which means it's going to be relatively easy conditions. And like I said, if it's moving day, do not be surprised to see a bunch of scores there of -6, -7, perhaps even -8 and -9 tomorrow. When somebody gets on a roll around Detroit Golf Club, I mean, you could really see this place taken apart. And the X factor here is the first few years at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, they made a few of these par fours drivable, and they did that on Saturday. So, moving day once again, right? They're trying to make this more of a risk reward type of golf course. Don't be surprised if a few of the shorter par fours, like number 8, for example, that's 372 in the scorecard, might play closer to like 320 yards, or maybe even shorter if they move it up 1 or 2 tee boxes. And the scoring average might even go way lower than it was before. You can see this actually played a slightly over par today here at hole number 8. If they do so, right, I mean, the scoring average could be 2.5 shots under par. So those are some of the things that I'm taking into consideration when making my projections, but looking at my player pool for tomorrow. I'm expecting it to be extremely scoreable around the green, to not be non-existent, but to nearly be non-existent in terms of my modeling. And from a wind, let's see, wave perspective, when trying to take on, trying to target the AM versus the PM guys, there's not really much to look at right here, right? In the morning, you're looking at low winds. In the afternoon, it's pretty much the same type of conditions. Now, we do have the slightly firmer and faster greens that'll be there in the afternoon, also slightly less pristine greens with all the foot traffic that, is going to be on them throughout the day. And on top of that, also because it's a POA green surface, you get some of that budding that a POA green will do. It's infamous for that. That effect is well documented in golf circles. So you will see a slight difference between the two waves, but you have to remember that the guys up there at the top of the leaderboard are also playing the best golf. There's a reason why they're at the top of the leaderboard. And, week after week, you're not going to see a quote unquote ceiling performance from the guys that are in like first or second place, but you might see near ceilings from them, right? Some like 3 to 4 under par. So if you're playing in cash or single entry contests, I don't think you should just have to fade a Tony Finau or a Taylor Pendrith. Now, if you're in a large field GPP like I'll be playing, we'll talk about it here in a second when we get to the player pool. Excuse me, guys. But I'm not going to be playing those type of people. They're going to be fades for me because they're going to be super highly owned. So a lot of it is going to be dependent of what contest you're in. But understand that, this whole wave thing tomorrow is pretty much not going to be non-existent, right? Like if you're trying to target players based on AM versus PM wave, kind of like we did here for the second round, you're going to be having a fool's errand. So let's go ahead and hop into the player pool now. With all that being said, I'll go ahead and share my screen. We'll catch up on chat before we hop into it too. Let's see what's going on. My throat is still feeling a little bit scratchy from having COVID and whatnot. So if I end up coughing, my bad. I was really close to it there a second ago. That's why I had to point away for a second and almost cough. But we held it together pretty good. Rageous says, let's go, Luke. Yeah, what's going on? Hopefully you're doing well here, Rageous. We have Beat. He says, Mark Hubbard shed the bed today. Yeah, I faded him, and I faded him in my 4-round lineup. So I'm pretty happy about that. I also faded Will Zalatoris, who hardly made the cut on the number. So obviously him missing the cut would have been a little bit better, but didn't end up doing that for us. And same thing with Cam Davis. The bastard made the cut on the number. So our 3 fades this week that we made public all either made the cut on the number or missed the cut. So I say that's a success. The whole goal of them is to be a GPP fade, right? And at this point, unless they go absolutely nuclear over the weekend, both of them are going to be completely irrelevant. I mean, for somebody in that 8 and 9K range or 10K range, like a Will Zalatoris, they're going to have a top 5 performance, right? So they're irrelevant, right? So they're solid fades at this point. So I can already say that. So I hate that you probably played him, Beat, but yeah, I was well off of Mark Hubbard. You don't play somebody after they get hole in one, that's for sure. They luck sacked into that hole in one, those extra points. Do not expect them to go ahead and back that up the next day. It's just unsustainable. Nick Mar says, all the slapdicks are gone. Agreed. Yeah, we got to get all the slapdicks out of here. And if you're a slapdick that's watching this and you're a self-identified slapdick, get out of here. I don't want you here. But if you're somebody who's not a slapdick, we love to have you here. It's a non-slapdick inclusive community here. Jeff Oswald says Gsluke went 6 under today and still missed the cut. Yeah, he had a brutal day there on Thursday. Like guys like Luke List, Maverick McNealy, for that matter, had horrible days there on Thursday. Looked like all pros today. Looked like Tiger Woods in their prime. It's a shame that they couldn't do it 2 days in a row, right? Or else they'd be in contention. sometimes that's just how golf works. And I'm sure a lot of the guys that are in contention right now are going to have a day like Liggett had there in day one, right? And I know I'm not saying his name right. I believe the C is silent, but we're not going to stretch on that one too much. They're going to probably blow up too, right? So it's just, when that happens, right? If it happens to happen on Thursday or Friday, you're probably chunk slamming and missing the cut. If it happens over the weekend, you're at least making the cut, getting a paycheck at the end of the week. But in reality, you probably played the same level of golf as that guy that missed the cut. Just is what it is. That's golf. That's how it works. Martin says, PP related, we got fairways and greens. You'll love to hear it. I bitched about it enough. A lot of us down there bitched about it. You'll love to hear it. That's going to be great for tonight. Yeah, with that being said, after this, we will have a prize picks video going up. And of course, down there in the Discord, our Patreon, we'll be doing a ton of content for that. With fairways and greens, should be a really good slate. And we have the live content side. So I'm really looking forward to tonight. It should be a really good prize pick slate. We have Planet who says, even though I have Finau, he worries me hitting the grandstand on 17. Yeah, I believe last week that was certainly pure luck. Today, he gained a bunch of strokes putting, so that's concerning, right? And you got to wonder when it's going to come to an end, right? When people go on hot streaks, it's sustained for usually an event, sometimes like 6 to 7 rounds, but it ends. And usually when it ends, it fizzles out in pretty drastic fashion. So yeah, if you're playing him right now, you're probably a little bit nervous, but who knows, right? Maybe he goes out there tomorrow and smashes once again. I mean, really, we can't be surprised if he does. Now, he's going to be like 40% owned. I'm not going to be playing him in my large field GPP lineups. We'll talk about it. Obviously, you can see the no there on the screen. Yeah, it's concerning. He's going to have to fizzle out at some point. Like he's playing at an unsustainable rate. Everyone knows that, and I'm pretty sure even he knows that. Anthony says, "Yo, I just joined the Patreon. We're glad to have you, Anthony. Make sure we get you in the the Discord server." Here afterwards. I'll make sure I shoot you a link there on Patreon to get you in the Discord server. Matt Hand says, Tony already won. It's over. Okay. We'll screenshot that and get back to you in a few days, buddy. That'll be funny. Nick Mars says, thanks for nothing, McCarthy and Kisner. Yeah, McCarthy and Kisner. I was trying to think of a few of the other slapdicks. Kisner especially. Kisner missed every putt today. He had a few 5-foot birdie putts, a few like 10 to 15 footers that he ended up lipping out. Just an outrageously bad putting performance from somebody who's normally one of the best putters on tour, which makes me think that next week at the Wyndham Championship, a course that he absolutely loves, that he's pretty much tailor-made for, he's going to smash at. So expect an even lower-owned Kevin Kisner next week, probably a super cheap, at least compared to where he should be, Kevin Kisner, and somebody that I'm certainly going to be on. So that's for sure. Nick says, see you next week. No grudges here. That's for sure. Mightiest Helmets, and yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about Kisner, maybe even McCarthy. It's a pretty decent course fit for McCarthy, too. So I tend to agree with you, both guys there. Mightiest Helmut says Finau can have third. Pendrith wins this with Young second. I tend to think that Young wins this or Pendrith. I still have a sneaking suspicion, especially after today's round, that Young's winning because his floor round seems like, -1 when he went out there was like his floor performance, like him going out there and having the worst round that he possibly can. His median's probably like 3 to 4 under par, maybe even 4 to 5 under par. And him going out there and just playing like decent golf is truly 6 to 7 under par. It's his type of golf course. He's going to have eagle looks on 3, maybe even 4 holes, particularly if they make that one par 4 drivable. I really like Cam Young's chances. I'll just say that. So I know he's blacked out on the screen there, but you can probably gather from that, Planet Warrior, what I think about Cam Young. I kind of keep it behind the veil there, but I think you know what I'm doing with them. Let's go ahead and talk about Tony Finau, though. So we'll go through this in order. We'll talk about some of the studs up top, that's for sure. We do have some whiskey here, by the way. I poured it before the show. I haven't drinking any yet. And usually I try to let the ice try to melt a little bit because I do just drink pure whiskey. I don't mix it with anything. There's no like simple syrup or anything in it. Let's try and dilute it, but it's not diluted yet. This is you don't know if you can see, it's a metal cup, so it tends to kind of retain the coldness a little bit more. And yeah, it's keeping it nice and frozen, which would normally be really nice, but not in this scenario. I want some of it to melt, but I'll stop being a bitch at some point and drink it. But let's keep moving on. Let's talk about Tony Finau here. So Tony Finau, 40% owned. We already talked about some of the concerns with his game. He gained a bunch of strokes putting today, made a bunch of putts today that he just historically doesn't make. I mean, he's normally missing putts from 5 to 7 feet all day. made plenty from that 10 to 15 foot range. Was looking like Jordan Spieth out there with the flat stick. And in terms of his minus 14 score, he's going to garner a bunch of attention, right? 39.99%. That's for the large field GPP, where I'm assuming that a lot of the field is playing the game theory game, right? He's trying to avoid Tony Finau because of the super high ownership. Now, in single entries or cash contests, forget about it. Tony Finau is going to be 50% plus. I can guarantee you that, if not closer to 60, 70, probably 90% plus in cash contests. I mean, pretty much everybody is going to play Tony Finau up top. Now, you're going to get a few slapdicks in cash that go, I'm going to play Will Zalatoris, who I think is a great play in GPP contests. But if you're playing a cash, just play Tony Finau tomorrow. It makes a lot of sense. You really want to corner yourself in 2 or 3 spots on cash when you can. And I think Tony Finau is a good spot to do so. Now, for large field GPPs, I'm not playing any of them. He's going to be 0% owned for me. Somebody who I think if you're playing, you pretty much have to lock tomorrow because he's going to be 40, 50% owned. But furthermore, I expect some of that putting regression, right? If he does what he did today, goes out there, it's something like 3 to 4 under par, which for cash is fine. That's why I think he's a great cash play. When you're trying to take down a large field GPP, I mean, if he loses strokes putting, right, it could be something closer to even par, just 1 under par. You're not going to win with those type of performances, right? Obviously, the floor performance isn't going to get it done, but even his median performance of 4, maybe even 5 under par, if we really want to give him that distance bombers advantage, kind of like I gave it Cameron Young in terms of his median projection, it's not enough, right? He has to get that putter working like he did today. So a lot of people are just going to bank on him going out there smashing for like the 4th straight round. I frankly don't see it. I see him shooting something a little bit more respectable, maybe even being the leader after tomorrow, right? He might be 18, 19 under par going into Sunday with the lead. It might not be enough for contests tomorrow, right? There's no placement points. Remember that. It's Saturday Showdown. All the slapdicks out there, for whatever reason, love to migrate towards the guys at the top of the leaderboard. So I'm going to pivot from some of those players and just take a stand against them. But again, if you're playing cash, those sort of contests, it's a completely different story. I think he makes plenty of sense in a cash or even a 2 to 3 max type of contest. Let's talk about Willy Zee, who's a great pivot in large field contests off of somebody like a Tony Finau. So at $10,300, first and foremost, he's ball striking the absolute shit out of it. I didn't play him in 4-round contests. Again, I faded him going into the week. I expected the putter to be an issue, and it has to this point. But I have a sneaking suspicion, and this always happens with Willy Zee. At least 1 out of every 4 rounds, he figures the putter out. He goes out there, he'll gain 2, maybe even 3 strokes to the field in any given round and have that nuclear performance. It hasn't happened yet. And I hate to say it, but he's due for that performance. He does it time and time again. And at major championships, sometimes he does it in 2 or 3 rounds. Now, if he does it in all 4, he's probably going to win one of these majors sooner rather than later. And he's getting better with the putter in general. I mean, even in this fall and spring season, he was going out and gaining to the field over his last 24 rounds with his shots gained putting stats. I think he's due for a solid round here. I mean, his shots gained tee to green numbers pretty much in every category are through the roof, top 10, top 5 in pretty much every single category. And I have him 22% owned. So it's not like he's completely being overlooked. I think because of some of the stats, the fact that he's in that 10K range, pretty much all these guys are going to get a significant amount of ownership pretty much whatsoever. I still think it's worth getting over the field on. I'm going to be playing at least 50% of Will Zalatoris tomorrow. Now, I did it today, right? He went out there and he kind of shit the bed. He just kind of got by middlingly, but that was mostly putter driven. I mean, he's just been atrocious with the shots gained putting stats at this point. Whereas off the tee, he's been absolutely raking, hitting almost every single fairway, hitting it 310, 320 yards through the air. And we know how good the approach play is. One of the best players in the world, probably top 5 in that category. So I expect a huge bounce back performance. And of course, the guys that I fade that end up just making the cut always go out there and smash. So you might as well go out there and play them. It's just the thing that keeps on giving back, happens time after time. You have Max Houma at $9,500. Now, today, he started off rough. In fact, it was over par through his first 6 to 7 holes. And then on back 9, completely rebounded. Was able to take it from +1 the whole way to -4. And on the last hole, hit a missile to 4 feet. And it was on a 200-yard par 3. And that really was the exclamation point to me. drove the point home that Max Houma had some positive momentum going into Saturday here. But more than anything, the ball striking numbers through the first 2 days were great. The putting stats were not. And kind of like Will Zalatoris, he's a volatile player with the flat stick. But more than anything, Max Houma is consistently a better putter, right? When you look at his shots gained stats, Max Houma is usually a good putter, and it's not because he's always gaining with the flat stick. In fact, you can see gaining close to 0.3 shots per round with the flat stick. It's not that he's always doing that. Like I said, he's extremely volatile. He'll do what he did over the first 2 rounds and lose with the flat stick quite often. It's that when he gains in bunches. Like he gains 2-3 strokes to the field in a single round type of thing. And if he does so, he cracks slates, right? He shoots 6 to 7 under par. And this is that type of golf course where if you can get that hot flat stick working and you're a serviceable ball striker, let alone an elite level ball striker, like somebody like a Max Houma, you have more than enough ability to go out there and just smash. So I like him there at 9,500. He's 15.1% owned, so a little bit lower than a Will Zalatoris. Now, a lot of that is just stat driven. I mean, Willy Zee, when you look at his shots gained metrics, just popping off the board. Like he looks like he's a demigod at this point, somebody that you absolutely just can't avoid. Whereas Max Houma, it's a little bit more middling, a little bit more sneaky when it comes to that perspective. So that's why I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned there. So those are a few guys in the 9 and 10K range that I'm getting to. As per usual, if you want access to everyone that I'm playing, the guys that are blacked out here, they are on my Patreon page. I will give you an idea, just some of my general thoughts. So if you're doing your own research, trying to identify plays, what you can use to do so is we're looking for guys that are going to be low owned, right? So guys that are probably not at the top of the leaderboard. And furthermore, guys that are hitting the ball well, playing well with shots gained off the tee, playing well with their shots gained approach. So obviously I kind of tipped my hands on Cameron Young. He's going to be one of those players, but there's plenty of others in the 9K range specifically that are, blacked out here that I will be playing. So just understand that that's the same thought process that I'm going with there. But I can't tip my hand on everyone that I'm playing. That is the purpose of the Patreon. Moving on a little bit further, we got Cameron Trangali at $8,400. And before I talk about Trangali, I've always got to take a drink because this boy is the biggest slapdick out here. Not one of my favorite players in the world. Somebody that I clown from time to time. He's honestly in contention to be the literal slapdick emoji on my Discord server. We're going to do a vote for it here next week to try and figure out who the ultimate slapdick is. Brian Stewart is in that conversation. Same thing with Cameron Trangali. I will take nominations for that, by the way, if anybody has ideas down in chat. But yeah, I need to take a drink of this before we talk about Trangali because anytime I play him, it takes a lot of stones, that's for sure. Because this guy is an absolute maniac. He's either going to shoot +6 tomorrow, completely eject himself from the golf tournament, make himself irrelevant from pretty much every perspective, and somebody that I also faded from a 4-round perspective. So, him and Will Zalatoris, I'm taking shots on a few guys that I think might burn me tomorrow, go out there, actually get themselves into contention, which would kind of suck, but it would also make way too much sense. He's a volatile player. He's somebody who can flip that putter in a hurry. And to this point, the putter has not been friendly to him. And we just saw a few weeks ago, I mean, think about it. Open Championship was playing his heart out. A few weeks before that was in contention multiple times. I mean, this guy nearly won multiple tournaments in the last month. I mean, are people just forgetting about that after a few bad rounds? And, if he's going to be 10.2% owned, give me 35-40% Cameron Trangali. Like I'm taking a significant amount of leverage. And like I said, I got to probably take another drink for this because it's not something that I like to do. But with his volatility, how aggressive a player is, his high birdie or better percentage, he's capable of breaking the slate, particularly when he's low owned. And, he's coming in with form. Like I said, just a few bad rounds. That happens in golf. Davis Riley had a quad bogey on a par 5 today. I mean, do you think that's really going to happen to him all that often? Just shit happens sometimes, right? And sometimes shit happens over an 18-round sample size. So, for somebody like Trangali, who to this point, it's been a solid fade, I'm not really sure how much that's going to hold up because he's shown us time and time after again, he's crazy enough of a mofo to go out there, just take aim at every single pin and break a slate. So, I'm going to play 35 to 40% tomorrow, but I do not feel good about it. That's for damn sure. Let's go ahead and catch up on chat before we talk about our next fade here, who you can see, unfortunately, is going to be Taylor Pendrith. But we'll talk about him, that's for sure. Let's see. Swamic Thunder says, I feel like a slapdick for actually believing in Denny. I believed in him. And honestly, I kind of feel like a slapdick too, but I mean, should be. I mean, he was coming in with form. The golf course fit made sense. I hope enough people, Sway, feel jaded about it that they don't go out and play him at the Wyndham because he's a perfect course fit. Same thing with Kevin Kisner. So, guys that I play that didn't end up doing all that well, I can get over it real quick. I'm a little bit less emotional about my lineups than most. It usually takes me about 30 seconds to a minute to get over a missed cut. I'll rage about it for a few seconds to myself internally, of course, and then completely flush the toilet on that. It's something that I can do personally that I'm pretty good about. It's a good practice in DFS too. So, and usually, those guys smash the week after, right? Especially when they're a pretty good player, like a Denny McCarthy or a Kevin Kisner. They usually bounce back. So I'll definitely be playing them next week. That's for sure if they're in the field. And I don't know they are for sure, but I would imagine they would be with their track record on short golf courses. Outrageous, who says Sloane's course history came through. Yeah, I'll be playing him tomorrow. So he'll actually be on the list here. I believe he's at the bottom. Yes, he is. Roger Sloane. He's an absolute fiend, just like a Cameron Trangali when it comes to those birdies. He goes out there and makes them in bunches. So, yeah, we'll talk about him in more details a little bit later, Outrageous. But yeah, I love it. Absolutely agree with you there. He came through. It might come through for us here in round 3 as well. Mark Green says Scott Stallings is doing well at -9, then missed a 2-foot putt on the 16th, then missed his drive on the next hole, but still finished at -9. Yeah, I mean, he's playing well. He had a bogey-free round. He made, like 7 birdies today, shot 7 under, may even have been like 8 under, something like that. I feel really good about my Scott Stallings play. Cameron Young obviously smashed today, shot like 9 under par. That was really solid for our lineups. Siwoo Kim I have an outright bet on. He's up there in contention. Who else do we have? We have Taylor Pendrith, who's in first place. Obviously, an outright bet on him. I'm in a good spot, both from my outright bets and my DFS perspective. I don't have as many 6 of 6s as I would have liked. Still a little bit over the field, but I don't have like 30 to 40 like I usually do week to week. I'm normally pretty good from the 6 of 6 percentage. But we have a lot of live bullets. Like the 6 of 6s I have are in contention. They're all like in the top 20, top 50, or 100 of the GPP that I'm in. So I like my chances. And Mark, yeah, Scott Stallings, a huge part of that, that's for sure. Especially him keeping that bogey-free round there. So, Planet says, thank you for saving me on Willy Zee. Yeah, I'm glad I'm saved myself from it. I almost played him this week. Like I was this close to making him one of those sleeper picks rather than somebody that was a fade because he wasn't super highly owned, but I just couldn't pull the trigger, right? The putting isn't good enough over a 4-round sample size. But hey, for Saturday Showdown, if we can get that magic with the flat stick, hey, that's all we need, right? 18 holes of him just being an okay putter, shooting 6 under par, right? That's what we need, right? And honestly, that's what I think he's going to shoot tomorrow, 6 under par. If we can get to that number, maybe even a bogey-free 6 under par, we're golden. That should be enough tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm glad I didn't play him in my 4-round contest, but we'll see tomorrow. Maybe it'll work out. I feel pretty good about his chances, to be honest. Jack says, in the future, I think I'll be playing Willy Zee on difficult courses. For 4-round contests, I agree. Because over a 4-round sample size, you don't necessarily need to have your putter. But at a birdie fest, you undoubtedly, at least to get into contention, right, be in that top 5 to top 10, you got to have that flat stick working. We've seen that over the years. Every single top 5 finisher at the Rocket Mortgage Classic has gained at least 2 strokes to the field at the event in the 3-year history. And I imagine by the end of this year, we're probably adding it to the sample size. So that's probably the reason for that, Jack. And that's something I've just noticed at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, but it's probably also at least similar, if not the same at most other birdie fests. So maybe it's something that we need to consider a little bit more at other golf courses, because it was certainly the case this week. Roman says, who do you like? Max Homa versus Tyler Duncan in a 2-ball. The odds for that, assuming, would obviously favor Max Homa quite favorably. I would have to say Max Homa is the clear favorite and should be for a reason. But without knowing the actual odds there, I can't make that decision. So just a blind, if it was a 50-50, let's say Max Homa. But go ahead and let me know the odds down below, and I can give you a better answer there, at least a more analytical answer. That's definitely necessary. And he said, who do you like, Cantlay versus Stallings for round 3? Well, I would definitely say Cantlay, but yet again, I got to know the odds. So go ahead and let me know those down below, and I'll give you a little bit of a better answer. We have a Sway says Cam Davis is the real play. Yeah, he's blacked out there. If you want to see my thoughts on him, you can look at the Patreon page. We have Planet who says thoughts or odds on Pendrith taking it home. I don't think they're that high. There's a reason why, he's the clear underdog to somebody like a Tony Finau right now. In fact, I think somebody like a Cam Young is still almost just as live as somebody like a Taylor Pendrith to take home this golf tournament, but he's certainly in the mix. I'd rather him be where he is at this point than not, right there in first place, with Tony Finau just a shot behind. So I think he's got a chance, but I wouldn't say he's the favorite. I'd say that Tony Finau is probably the favorite to take it home at this point. Maybe even Cameron Young, number 2, who's back there, 5 shots back at this point. You definitely got to put him there in the mix in terms of favorites. Who else we got here? We got Jeff, who says, can you rank these? We have Duran, Clark, and Svensson. It'd be Svensson, Clark, then Duran for me. Wilson says Russell Henley. Yeah, Russell Henley played great today. Now he's going to be a little bit chalky tomorrow. So if you're going to play him, play a significant amount of them to make sure that you get that leverage. Mineas says Slapdick, Cam Chant, Shooks -6, then Pouts all Friday when missing putts. Yeah, I didn't play him this week, and I heard a lot of people bitching about Cam Champ, which, if you're going to play Cam Champ, understand the Cam Champ experience. He's somebody who misses putts in just bunches, right? And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to there, Midas, is like he was bitching about it. He always misses putts. Like, why does he care? And why is he crying about it on the golf course when he's just a dog shit putter? Like, get over it. Like Emiliano Grillo, when he's missing putts, you don't see him acting like a child, like, kicking the turf. And he was swearing a lot on camera today, Camera Champ. They had to mute the mic after almost every single putt and after almost every single shot that he was hitting. He's got to grow up a little bit at a certain point, to be honest with you, because he's just not a good putter. He's not going to make many putts. So he's got to get over it. And anybody that played him this week, and this is not you, Mightiest, because you obviously are kind of making fun of him there and making fun of the fact that he was getting mad at himself missing putts. If you played him and you're mad at Cameron Champ missing putts, then wake up. His stats are horrible on the greens. I mean, he's always been a really bad putter. Wilson says, while it was golf today, no idea what you're saying there, man. You're going to have to go ahead and quantify that a little bit better. Go ahead and just clarify it. We have Yi Win, who says, Henley, no idea what you're saying there, boss. You're going to have to clarify that too. You guys are saying some nonsense down there in chat. I don't know what you're saying right now. Get it together. I don't want to call you slapdicks. Come on, guys. Let's not say nonsense down there in chat. I can't even read it. Makes no sense. We have the next question. It says Simpson sold today. Good idea to fade him for 3-ball. Yeah, I didn't play him today, and I also faded him on Prize Picks. So I think he's going to be a good play tomorrow. We'll talk about him a little bit later. Nick Marr says if Reed doesn't win this week, I nominate him for the slapdick emoji. Yeah, obviously as head of the Reed fan club, you're going to have that take. Roman says Houma -175 and Cantley -225. Wow, -225, that's a huge ask. That's going to be a fade for me. I like Cantley there. I think he's going to win. I'm not betting 225, though, and I would advise you not to bet that, too. And honestly, Roman, -175, that's laying a lot of juice. I'm not really trying to do that, especially on a single-round sample size. Now, if you were talking about a 4-round, obviously, just a tournament matchup or something like that, I'd be a little bit more willing to do so, but, you're not going to get a -175 tournament matchup. They're usually pretty good about, keeping them relatively close in terms of their odds. I wouldn't bet those, man, at least personally. I'm just giving you my take there. Those would be fades. I don't like betting guys that are that large of betting odds, at least in a single round sample size. It's like a showdown lineup, right? We play a lot of slap dicks that aren't playing well because it's volatile, because we expect madness in a single round sample size. So I don't want to lay 225 on somebody like Cantley. I mean, even if he's a sizable favorite, it's just you're playing with fire, right? You're going to win a lot more than you lose, but when you lose, it's really going to sting because you're laying -225 odds, right? That's you can't feel very comfortable doing so in a single round sample size, at least in my opinion. I don't like doing so. Nick says Cam Champ is no champ. Yeah, that's a good nickname for him. Sway says no matter how many putts Grillo misses, he will always be your boy. Yeah, I love Grillo. I mean, to be quite honest with you, he's got an attitude of a champion. I mean, even in that loss, was able to go out there, do his interview. He wasn't that shook about it. He's been in contention the last few weeks, and his putting has slowly but surely gone slightly better and better. And as the years have gone on, you've seen that with his play. He's gotten a little bit more consistent. Hopefully that continues, right? If he can continue that going forward, might actually end up being a pretty good player. Jack Fisher says John Rahm is a slapdick. I'm assuming that's for the nomination for the emoji there. Nick Marr says last week Hoagie was the Reed. Stay tuned for Nick's fave player of the week next week. So I'm assuming you'll be on read for Showdown tomorrow. And Wilson says, the Byron Nelson or the Wyndham, the easiest course on the PGA. Honestly, I think it's this course. Honestly, Detroit Golf Club, probably the easiest golf course on tour when you have pretty much no wind, which is what we're going to get tomorrow. We're going to see maybe a 2.5, 3-stroke under par average. That would not surprise me, particularly if they move up the tees, like I mentioned, was a possibility during the beginning of the show. Let's go ahead and continue with this. So we talked a little bit about Trangali. He's extremely volatile, right? I think he can get to that ceiling performance. That's somebody that I'll be fading. And frankly, I hate to say this, right? He's my boy this week. I have an outright bet on him of $200, pretty sizable for me. That's a 2-unit bet on somebody that I'm taking outright. I don't know if he's going to get us another ceiling performance, right? When you go out there and your first round leader, you back it up, you're able to hold that lead going into the second round. It is really hard to hold that for a third straight day, right? Particularly when you're an inferior player to somebody like a Tony Finau. So, as much as I like the guy, right? I think he'll probably shoot 3 to 4 under par tomorrow. I'm not completely sold that he goes out there and completely smashes at $8,100. So he will be a fade. I have him projected to be owned in 26% of lineups, but do not be surprised if he comes in significantly higher owned than that. Now, I run an algorithm. I kind of just let the numbers do their thing. I try not to edit it as much as humanly possible. And what it spat out this week for Taylor Pendrith was 26.3%. And we kind of just got to go with that. Now, I know in reality that people love playing the guys at the top of the leaderboard. So even a guy like Tony Finau, that's why I said, he might even be 50% owned in some of these GPPs tomorrow. Don't be surprised if Taylor Pendrith is like 35% plus owned tomorrow, particularly in some of the higher dollar contests or some of the single entry type of builds. Those guys like a Tony Finau, Taylor Pendrith are going to be extremely popular. Now, same thing as Tony Finau in cash. I think he's a more than adequate play, right? Obviously playing a lot of solid golf. I expect him to shoot something in that, 2 to 4 under par range. And from a cash perspective, as long as you're at least shooting, let's say 2, 3 under par on average, you're probably going to end up in the top 50%. You're most likely going to end up in the cash. He's not going to hurt you there. And particularly if he's super high owned, those are the type of ownership spots that you want to take advantage of, that you want to corner yourself into, right? So maybe your real expensive guy in cash will be a Tony Finau. Maybe your 8K guy in cash will be somebody like a Taylor Pendrith. And in the 7K range, there's a few guys you could take that'll be relatively chalky in cash. Now, we'll talk about a few specifics, particularly here towards the middle of the 7K range. That might be especially chalky. Let's see, a lot of the really expensive guys, right, are going to be chalky, like the Cam Young, right? He's going to be super high owned tomorrow. It's ownership's relatively spread out, right? But you want to make sure that you're for sure in cash playing somebody like a Tony Finau and for sure playing somebody like a Taylor Pendrith. Moving on a little bit further to guys I actually like. So first off, Joo Young Kim kind of seems like he's being forgotten about, right? He obviously made the cut the last few events, was the talking point going into last week, was Mega Chalk, was extremely popular this week, but hardly made the cut. And usually guys, when they're chalk going into the week and they hardly make the cut, they are severely underowned for Saturday Showdown. And really, it's all about psychology, right? Those guys, when they play them, especially somebody like a Joo Young Kim, right? Bright up-and-coming star, you're expecting the world from him. And when he goes out there and he just makes the cut, slapdicks out there, they think to themselves, oh boy, this week sucks. Joo Young Kim not getting it done, right? Whereas if somebody like me who didn't play him this week, I played 0% Joo Young, and it's the first week I haven't played him. I've played him every week he's been out here, other than the first week he was out. I was not a believer the first week. I saw him go out there, make the cut, be extremely impressive. Then I hopped on board. I'm going to hop on here for round 3 because he's a high upside player. And going into last week, he was like, 18 to 1 to win that golf tournament? That tells you what the Vegas sports books thinks about him. And he's $7,800. So just based on that alone, he's probably $1,500 too cheap at the very least, if not maybe even a little bit more cheap. And then you're talking about somebody I have projected for 4.8% projected ownership. So because of the fact that he hardly made the cut, he's really letting down a lot of people out there. The algorithm really, really shut down his ownership, has completely neutralized it at this point. So obviously somebody I think has a good chance to go out there and bounce back. And anytime you're playing Saturday Showdown, you're not worrying about placement points. It's going to be all about taking the guys that you think have the ability to not only bounce back, but when they bounce back, go out there and shoot something like 6 to 7 under par, because those are the type of rounds that you're going to see out there tomorrow with no wins around the Rocket Mortgage Classic. At an extremely gettable golf course. In this 7K range in general, there will be a few pieces of chalk, like a Scott Stallings, for example. He's going to be relatively popular. Siwoo Kim, you could also consider in cash. He's going to be relatively popular. So those would be a few cornerstones that you might want to consider. Towards the lower end of the 7K range, let's see. Kk Lim Hazet will get some attention. I think Svensson will get some attention too, but a little bit less than somebody like a Callum Duran, believe it or not. Even though Svensson was like 30% owned a few weeks ago in GPPs, people seem to be enthralled with Kk Lim Hazet at this point. Let's see, at the bottom of the 7K range, Stuart Sink at -10, probably going to be a little bit popular. Somebody like Steven Yeager is going to get attention. Of course, Charlie Hoffman, after his really hot start in round 1, probably also going to draw a few eyes here for round 3. But somebody that I have my eyes on, and arguably, at least per the price, right, across the board, guys, this is my favorite play on the board. So obviously, like per price tag, per capita, Jason Day at $7,300 is a smash play. I love this. This is one of my favorite spots that I've seen for quite some time. I bet against him today, along with Webb. Webb was under 5 birdies I took on PrizePicks. He made like 2 today. I took under 4.5 birdies on Jason Day, and I believe he made 1 all day. And that was with hitting at least 10 lips. It was with 3 putting on multiple par 5s. And through the first 2 rounds, he's top 25 in both ball striking categories. He's been beautiful off the tee, hit a few 350-yard drives, which, you know, for Jason Day, I didn't really think he was still capable of doing so. And then on top of that, the approach play was great. He had plenty of opportunities in that 5 to 10 foot range. In fact, plenty of opportunities less than 5 feet that he missed today. It was hard to watch. The guy could not make a putt. And, you know, the reason why I faded him is I said that he couldn't putt, right? Because on round 1, he couldn't putt. Guess what? Same thing with Willy Zee, right? They couldn't putt the first 2 rounds. Just time and time again, right? These guys that are volatile with the flat stick, and honestly, I wouldn't even call Jason Day volatile with the flat stick. Jason Day is just good at putting. He's one of the best putters of all time, frankly. And for him to have missed so many putts through the first 2 rounds, it's going to turn around, right? For Willy Zee, it's a little bit more speculative. Like, we're kind of just hoping that he gets to that ceiling performance. And if he gets to a neutral even, I think that's probably going to be close to enough for tomorrow. Jason Day, like, we expect, like, not we hope, we expect him to regress back to the mean, right? And if he even just remotely does so, I mean, today he shot, what was it? I believe like 2 to 3 under par today. I believe it was 2 under par, made no bogeys on the card. I mean, he's shooting 4 to 5 under par at the very least. And what is he, $7,300? You would probably feel pretty good about that, let alone if he gains with the flat stick, right? If he goes out there and he has his normal 2 to 3 shots gained day that he has from time to time on tour, I mean, he could shoot 7 to 8 under par. And we saw that at the Wells Fargo. It's not like it hasn't happened. It happened at the Zozo Championship. Went out there, had ceiling performances, was in contention at those events. It doesn't happen all that often. But when Jason Day can find the magic with the flat stick, he's somebody that you absolutely have to have. And based on the ball striking form that we've seen, that's within his range of outcomes. And it isn't always there, right? You know, the putter is always going to be there, that magic flat stick. Like I said, he's one of the best putters of all time for a reason. He's known for that. Like, literally, he's top 10 putter of all time, Jason Day. He's that good with the flat stick long term. He has to have the ball striking, right? And that's something that's consistent, right? You know, you'll carry that from round to round. He finally has that. He has that missing factor. And that's why I think he's such a good play. If he goes out there tomorrow and does the same thing, you know, doesn't do anything with the flat stick, I'll be the same exact amount of excitement there for Sunday on him. I'll be just as excited about him there for Sunday Showdown. So he's hitting the ball beautifully. Let's hope that flat stick turns around, because historically on this bent POA surface, a great putter too, right? And pretty much at any surface that you look at for Jason Day, you're going to be looking at one of the best putters that you have on tour. Let's go ahead and see what we've got here down in chat. There's a few more questions, it looks like. Planet Warrior asked about Tom Kim, so I gave my thoughts there. I absolutely love him for tomorrow. Roman says, who do you like on Theegala -115 versus Scott? That would be Scott for me. A lot of Theegala's game has been carried by the putting and some of the short game to this point, whereas Adam Scott's been a little bit more well-rounded. So I do like Adam Scott there. Steven says, if you're not with Patreon with this bright young man, you are missing out. I appreciate that, Steven. Thanks for the kind words. And honestly, I agree. Again, if you want to see everyone that I'm playing, everyone that is blacked out, that's how you get access to it. But on top of just giving picks, right? It's a great community too. You get access to the Discord, and on top of what I give out there, there's a lot of really bright minds down there. People giving out baseball picks, stuff for the MMA, just a fun community in general to toss ideas off of. It's something that I'm proud of being able to bring to you guys. And of course, people like you, Steven, that enjoy it. A lot of you others out there that are a part of the community are glad to have you. Glad to have you guys enjoy it. And hopefully tomorrow we can make a bunch of money too. It's even better when we're bringing in loads of cash at the same time. So thank you for the kind words there, Steven. I'm glad you enjoy it. Mightiest says, GS brings the best strategy, smash a like, and help the algorithm push the channel. Couldn't agree with that more, guys. Go ahead and smash that like button, right? What do you have to lose? It's down there in the corner. Even if you want to hit the dislike button, there's a bunch of haters out there, by the way. On almost every video I do, I get like 2 to 3 dislikes. By the way, I know you're watching because a couple of you get there quickly. You're some of my most loyal followers. You go out there and you dislike before some people even like the video. I mean, that's how much of a hater you are. And I'm sure you're watching right now if you're the person that does that. And you still watch my videos. The crazy part is, by the way, if you're listening to this, they still count that as a like on the YouTube algorithm because I kept you engaged. It doesn't matter if you liked it or disliked. The only thing that YouTube cares about is whether you're watching my content. So fuck the haters. I don't give a fuck if you dislike my videos because guess what? It still pumps me up in the algorithm. So go ahead, like it, like a lot of people out there will. And hey, if you dislike it, go ahead. I don't give a fuck either. Go ahead and dislike it. But either way, go ahead and hit one of the two. That's what I want to see at the end of the day here. So McThunder says, I kind of feel like you have to pay Finau in cash. I completely get behind that sentiment. That's for sure. I think he's pretty much a must play tomorrow. Stephen Hines says, some of the more likes would be good. Some good content there. I agree with you. That's for sure. JJ is asking the great questions. I say, who is Kk Lim Hazet? Now, I did some research on him because I said the same exact thing to myself, Jay. And I looked at it. He's played on the Korn Ferry Tour 7 times this year. He's made the cut once. He has 1 made cut, 6 missed cuts. And in that made cut, he finished in 65th place. And that was at the Advent Health Challenge. Yes, I did the full deep dive on KK today. Now, what does that tell me? He's dog shit, right? It doesn't matter how he's playing through the first 2 rounds. I have no interest. If he can't make the cut on the Korn Ferry Tour, he's probably going to be dog shit on the PGA Tour, right? That's just pretty easy to figure out there. So Jeff, I looked into him. Great name. Somebody who went out there. I was like, who the hell is that? Right? I'm saying who the hell is that? It's going to be a nobody. And he was complete nobody. Somebody who it wasn't really just ignorance from my part. I mean, he's made 1 cut on the Korn Ferry Tour, right? So it's not like he's some up and coming prospect. Space says, man, you're kind of selling me on Day. Dude, I got to play Day. I'm sorry. I bet against him today, right? So I was sweating every putt that he hit. He had so many makeable birdies, right? Every putt that I was sweating there, because it was a birdie prop I was going against, I was like, oh my God, well, he's going to make his first birdie here. That he missed from 5 feet. I'm still like, what the heck? And then he missed from 8 feet. And even the ones that he was missing from 20 to 25 feet, I'm sitting there Day makes these all of the time. It's Jason Day we're talking about. It was world number 1 at one point. A Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer when it comes to the World Golf Hall of Fame. Yeah, dude, I'm unbelievably bullish on him tomorrow. And if it doesn't happen tomorrow, it's happening Sunday. I'll be pushing all of those chips that I lost from today, playing Jason Day and putting them there on the table there on Sunday. That's for sure. He's just unbelievable with the ball striking. Big Tech says 7th in a 2K entry with McCarthy missing the cut. Hey, you might be able to hold on to that. 6 of 6 percentage was 9%. So hopefully your guys hold on. But yeah, McCarthy, I had plenty of as well. He was definitely a little bit disappointing. Nick Barr says a lot of bright minds like you. Or he said, then you. Hey, no, you're definitely one of those, Nick. Nick was giving us the goods on Tom Hoagie last week. If you guys weren't familiar, I tried to give him as many shout outs as humanly possible. He put me on to Tom Hoagie, and Tom Hoagie almost won last week. So yeah, Nick Barr's definitely one of the bright minds. Don't let him go ahead and fool you there. Roman says, thank you for your hard work and putting your soul into it. I appreciate that, man. Big Tech says, Cantlay going to win? I hope so. I mean, the outright perspective, I don't hope he wins, but from DFS perspective, I do hope he wins. So hopefully Cam Young wins, but hopefully Cantlay puts himself into contention. I could definitely see it. Ray just says Slapnick. The Slapnick emoji is coming. We have Big Tex who says, not Tony. At least that's what I want. I'm completely there with you. Jeff says, wow, Luke, I like those whiskey muscles. Okay. We have James who says, thanks for your hard work and analysis. I appreciate that, guys. Jack says, haters will hate. They're probably slapdicks as well. yeah, dude, like it doesn't get to me. There's one thing that like I don't care about, and it's like I don't give a fuck. Like I'm one of the people who will do what I want to. Like you have to understand, like I used to work as an engineer, and the reason why I don't anymore is I don't want to work for another company or listen to what other people have to say. I kind of do my own thing, right? Go by my own volition. And if I can make more money doing what I'm doing now with fantasy and on the side, I'm obviously going to do that rather than go out and slave and work for somebody else. So it's just kind of my personality. I'm kind of built for this, where I have that. I don't want to call it like an impenetrable shield where like people will talk shit. I just really don't care. But yeah, dude, like the haters can bring it on. Like I said, dislike the video if you're a hater out there. I really don't care. It literally pumps up the ratings for me. It gives me more impressions. That's the funny thing too, especially when it coincides with my personality. Like bring it on. It's even better. I think that's why Pat Mayo kind of does this whole spiel, because it's true. It literally pumps up the ratings in the algorithm when people dislike your video. So if that's going to be your thing, then go ahead and do it. I literally don't care. Roman says, who do you like on Simpson versus Brem? Oh, Simpson minus 125 all day. That's a spot I really like, Roman. In fact, I'd probably put like 2 units on that. I really like that bet there. Wilson says, I'm going to the Corn Ferry Tour event in the fall. That's great. Honestly, it's a great way to get access to some of the young players. You know, maybe get 4 or 5, you know, take them down on the tee sheet, the tee time sheet, you know, star them. Make sure you go ahead and follow those players. There's like 4 or 5 players that like, you know, the next year are going to be headliners, like a Cameron Young, Davis Riley, for example, Sahith Theegala this year, Taylor Pendrith, who's winning this golf tournament, who now, if you tried to follow them at a PGA Tour event, there's going to be huge crowds around them, particularly when they're in contention. You could see them in contention in a similar type of competitive mindset with no one around at those Corn Ferry Tour events for fractions, you know, on the price at really sick golf courses, right? You can almost even talk to them. Like there's so few people there where if you like really wanted to talk to Taylor Pendrith there on a Sunday while he's in contention, you pretty much could. Great idea, Wilson. I would recommend anyone out there that has Corn Ferry Tour events near them to go to them as much as humanly possible. Ewin, I got you, Ewin. He says Woo is a good play. Let me think about it. So Dylan Woo, or Brandon Woo, I don't think he's on the field anymore, right? Yeah, so we have Dylan Woo. I know Dylan Woo missed the cut. Where's Brandon Woo? You got to let me know which Woo, bro. But obviously only one made the cut, so I know it's Brandon. He's -6. He's not my favorite play, to be honest. He's just kind of a lower pedigree player who's priced up. I mean, the guys around him, obviously we'll talk about Monadi, who I like a little bit more just here in a few minutes. But Hayne Buckley, just a better player. Doc Redman, just a better player. Justin Lauer, a better player. Russell Knox, certainly a better player. Same thing with Bo Hostler. He's in the wrong price range. Like he should be like $6,500 on this slate. So for that reason, I'm out. If I have to quote some of the Shark Tank people out there. Nick Marr says, Brian Stewart hit the dislike button every week. Yeah, I'm sure he does. I'm sure Trangali hits the dislike button. I'm sure Victor Hovland does. Probably his whole family hates me because I talk so much shit about Victor Hovland. But it's just a tough love thing with Victor. Like, I like the guy. He's literally won me multiple GPPs. Like, I've talked about it here on the channel. I've done lineup studies on lineups that I've won with Victor Hovland and GPPs. I just expect a whole lot more from him. It's kind of like the whole like tough love from a dad coach kind of thing where it's like, come on, Vic, like get it together around the green. You can be great. You can be the best player in the world if you just figure it out around the green. But I'll give him shit until he does. That's for sure, because he deserves to be criticized there. He's horrible around the green. We have Lammy says, first time here and I've subscribed for all the notifications. Love to hear that. Glad to have you here. Love to see it. We have Sway says, Brian doesn't need to hit the dislike. He just plays like dog shit when Luke is on him. Yeah, I don't even play him, man. That's the crazy thing. At this point, I've just taken a stance against Brian Stewart. Like I've refused to play him. Today, I considered it. In fact, like I put him in the player pool, and then this morning I took him out. Like I literally bitched out of playing him this morning. And I told people down Discord, and they gave me a bunch of shit for it. But like I can't do it. Like I saw my lineups with Brian Stewart there, and one of them was one of my smaller field single entries. It was the $5 contest, the big $5 single entry. I had Brian Stewart in it. I bailed ship horribly on that. I was like, hell no, cannot do it. He's I hate him like any other player out there, and I told you guys why. And it's for a pretty established reason, a pretty deserved reason, at least in my opinion. Let's go ahead and continue with the player pool. Get some of this rocking here in the 6K range, at the top of the 7K range, or say top of the 6K range, whatever we want to use here is Peter Monadi. So like I'm at $7,000. He just made the cut and he had to make a few birdies down the stretch to do so. But he's the Showdown legend. I mean, we've seen it time and time after again. Peter Monadi makes birdies in bunches. And if there's one key stat that I was looking at for this week, if you guys remember, it was birdie or better percentage. So somebody like Peter, even at $7,000, who's arguably a little bit overpriced, kind of like somebody like a Brandon Wu, I'd much rather take the chance on Monadi, who has that track record of going out there and just smashing on slates, than somebody like who has kind of had some of that recent form, but doesn't have nearly the track record of ceiling performances like a Peter Monadi. Like Peter is known for going out there and making 7 to 8 birdies in a round. Now, obviously, for tomorrow, you hope that he keeps a clean record out there, doesn't make too many bogeys to get out there to something like 50, maybe even 55 fantasy points. But he's one of the few players in this range that I see that type of upside with. And, for those guys that just hardly make the cut, nobody wants to play them, right? They're in like 60th place, right? When the slapdicks there on DraftKings are looking at making their lineups by hand, they're going to see Peter Monadi, 60th place. Oh, who even is Peter Monadi, right? A lot of the casuals out there don't even know who bucket hat Peter Monadi is. He's my boy. He's the most positive guy on the PGA Tour. This guy can be shooting +8. He's going to see a smile on his face. I love that. That's how golf's meant to be. When I'm shooting +8, I'm pretty happy out there. Obviously, he's a professional, right? He's got different standards, but you wouldn't know it looking at Peter Monadi, and I love that about him. On top of that, he's just an absolute crazy mofo. Because of that attitude difference, he'll make 8 birdies and shoot even par. Like, he's more than capable of doing that. And in a showdown sample size, that might just crack the optimal lineup. So I'll definitely be getting there myself. I think he'll be super low owned too. 1.7% is what I've got him at for my last ownership run. And somebody that I'll definitely be playing. A few other guys we'll talk about. We have Nate Lashley, $6,700. He's going to be a little bit higher owned in my opinion, just because he won this golf tournament. I have him at 5.3%, which might even be a little bit aggressive. I'd hope he come in closer to like 2 or 3%, but I'm going to be a little bit aggressive about it. I play at least 10 to 15%, because anytime you have a past champion, clearly they have an affinity for the golf course, at least some familiarity with the greens, having played here the last 3 years. And at $6,700, I mean, I hope he's lower owned than 5%, because, if I can get 8x the field at 15%, I'm going to be laughing to the bank when he shoots 5 to 6 under par, because, on top of just having the course fit, the fact that he's won here before, he's a freaking, like a Peter Monadi, he's a crazy mofo. He makes a bunch of birdies. His birdie or better percentage is much higher than his peers. And, great evidence of that, on top of just the stats, right, the last few years, is Prize Picks loves to put him up there with the birdie or better matchups. They love to use Nate Lashley as one of the quote-unquote opponents. And all they're doing on there is trying to bait you into taking a lot of the best players in the world versus quote-unquote scrubs that are absolute maniacs, like a Peter Monadi, who's almost always on the Prize Picks board as an opponent. Somebody like Lee Hodges is a favorite of them too, who's also obviously towards the top of the leaderboard. He's -12, so he's going to be chalked tomorrow. Not playing him in my showdown lineups. That's a spoiler right there. But guys like Nate Lashley too, they have that ability to go super low, even if they're not playing their best golf, still make someone like 7 to 8 birdies. That's what we're looking for in showdown. I mean, that's the gold mine, right? Obviously, you hope he keeps it together a little bit, but I like him there starting at -3 and they're at $6,700. So we'll be teeing off in the morning, which, like I mentioned, at least at the beginning of the video, if you missed it, not going to be a huge wind edge, pretty much no difference between the winds between the morning and the afternoon, but you still are going to have more receptive conditions, right? Greens that are a little bit more pristine for some of these players. So Nate Lashley can make a lot of sense, particularly if you can go pin hunting. And then lastly, we've got Roger Sloane, who somebody mentioned before, played him in 4-round contests. It made a lot of sense to me with the course fit. But on top of anything, he's $6,400, super cheap here, and he makes a lot more birdies than his peers. So really, it's just, that's what I'm hunkering down on, if you couldn't tell at this point, right? For the whole 6K range in general, I'm just highlighting 3 plays that I'm getting here. Of course, there's a lot more that'll be in my player pool. But Roger Sloane, he's another one of those high birdie percentage players. Aggressive, will take aim at pins, also tends to be a pretty solid putter. And last week was one of the leaders in terms of birdies made, at least through the first 2 rounds. I believe he was top 5 in birdies made through Thursday and Friday there. One of the announcers was talking about it. He's somebody you can get hot in a hurry. So I like him there at -5. Maybe not the most consistent player, but again, these are for large field GPPs, and we're looking for somebody that can get to a ceiling performance. I like him a lot more than a Luke Donald, who obviously has the approach play of late, but dog shit putter. Ben Martin, dog shit putter. Somebody like William McGirt, well past his prime, just no interest in playing. There's a lot of guys down here, like Bo Van Pelt, for example, that have a much lower chance of actually getting to a ceiling performance. Whereas Roger Sloane, if he's playing solid golf, he could very easily shoot 6 to 7 under par tomorrow. And I don't think it would surprise too many people. So that's what I'm thinking with Roger Sloane there, -5, 0.3% owned. So don't expect many people to get to him. And if he can get to just 5, maybe 6 under par, that would be more than enough at that price tag to perhaps crack the optimal lineup, even in the largest of GPPs. What we're going to do now is catch up on any questions for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I'll remind you, after we do this, we will be moving on to the LIV Golf event in Bedminster. But as of right now, if you have any questions, anyone you want a deep dive on, anything of the sorts, go ahead and throw it down in chat. And after we go through all of those, we'll go ahead and hop over to the LIV side. So let's go ahead and see what we've got down there. Let's see. We have Roman, who says Cameron Young, who's -125 versus Lee Hodges. So yeah, I like those numbers a lot more, right? Like -175, -225 that you mentioned before, probably going to be stayaways for me, but Cameron Young should be even a larger favorite than Lee Hodges, in my opinion. Somebody who's got the course fit. Both are relatively long players, but in terms of pedigree, right, you're talking about somebody who's probably a top 10, top 20 player in the world versus somebody who's probably a top 70, top 100 player in the world at the very best in a Lee Hodges. So for me there, Roman, I would like the -125 side, and kind of like a few of the other matches we mentioned. I really like that one. I'd probably even bet like 1.5, 2 units on that. That's -125 is definitely something that I'd lay. Jeff says Kirk or Hadwin. So let me think about it. So you have Kirk, who hasn't putted well through the first 2 rounds. Ball striking has been there. He's been very consistent, made a bunch of pars, but just hasn't made nearly enough birdies. Or you have Hadwin, who did the same thing last week. And I haven't done the deep dive into his stats as of right now. I would imagine is doing a lot of the same. So let me think about it. So that's a tough one, Jeff. It's kind of like choosing between a rock and a hard place, right? 2 guys that are kind of playing the same as of right now. But if I had to bet on one of them to bounce back, I'd go Hadwin. Hadwin's going to be lower owned than Chris Kirk. Chris Kirk was relatively chalky going into the week, so I do think that people might still ride that ship going into Saturday. Hadwin disappointed people last week, so there's that psychological factor working against his ownership. And historically, he's a better putter than a Chris Kirk. So for me, definitely going to be siding towards Chris Kirk there, but I don't like either option. Like I said, it's kind of like choosing between a rock and a hard place. But those are my thoughts on that matchup. Let's go ahead and hop into the LIV Golf Bedminster side. So going to talk about, first off, the weather here for round 2 of that event. Got to shift from the round 3 to round 2 mindset now, and talk through what I'm expecting the course to play like, because we got to see a lot of it today. I've definitely adjusted my modeling here from round 1 to round 2, as you would expect from seeing a golf course for the first time in action. And I think there's probably going to be a pretty sizable edge here because, with the conditions that we saw, a lot of people that are playing Showdown for this aren't going to be watching the golf tournament. A lot of them are watching the PGA Tour today, and they're just going to blindly enter your lineups. Like, there's, I believe, at least from what I saw today, quite a bit that we can learn from the conditions. So let's go ahead and hop into the weather to begin, which, as you can see, is relatively beautiful. We got ourselves 8 miles an hour of sustained winds when they're teeing off. Now, the wind gusts a little bit higher, right? You can see 17 down to 13 miles an hour of wind gusts, but the sustained winds aren't anything to worry about. So that's really what I focus on when I'm looking at weather, is what the sustained stuff's going to look like. Whereas the wind gusts, they're a little bit worrying towards the beginning of the slate, but let's remember, it's a shotgun start. It's not like we're going to see an AM versus PM advantage, right? Everyone is teeing off at 1:15 p.m. Eastern time. So everyone's going to have slightly worse conditions at the beginning, and then towards the end of the round might get a little bit easier. What we really want to focus on here now is the golf course, because we did get to see quite a bit of action today. So first and foremost, it's a long-ass golf course. But is it so long that players can't deal with it? Absolutely not. Scoring average was a lot better than I expected. In fact, for a major championship type of venue, it played maybe even 2 shots easier than I probably would have projected. And really, there was no way to tell. We had no Pro-Am coverage. There was no live sets down there from CBS, NBC, or anything like that for us to get types of, reports from the grounds. And as a result, it was kind of a crapshoot there for round one. But what we saw today was a receptive, almost positional golf course. You look at the top of the leaderboard, it's guys that aren't that long off the tee, guys that are just good iron players, right? Like a Stenson. Somebody like Patrick Reed today, why you'd expect him to just gain a bunch of strokes with the putter? He was unbelievable with the irons. If we had shots gained metrics, I would assume he gained a bunch of strokes in that category because he hit darts to 5 feet on at least 5 to 6 holes. The guys that ended up leading after day one, I mean, you still had DJ at the top of the leaderboard, obviously a bomber. A few other players there in the top 5 to top 10 that you would certainly quantify as bombers, but you don't have to be a bomber to find success here. And particularly when we're going with a 1-round sample size, I don't think we really have to focus or at least obsess over taking guys that are going to be super long off the tee. More importantly, we want historically good iron players. So, guys like Louis Oosthuizen, who made an 8 today, who no one's going to want to play tomorrow, probably going to draw a lot of my attention. Guys that can spike with the putter, also going to get worth a few looks. And just like PGA DFS guys, and we sort this by score, the guys at the top of the leaderboard are going to get a ton of attention. So Patrick Reed, you bet your ass, I'm fading him. Henrik Stenson, I'm fading him. Kong Watmai, sorry, I can't say his name. Going to be a fade, right? He shot 5 under par. I guarantee you he's not going to be as sneaky as you think. DJ, probably going to be a fade even there at -4. It's the same exact story here with PGA DFS, right? The guys at the top of the leaderboard going to be much higher owned than they should be. And with the type of golf course that this is, where, kind of like I mentioned, even the shorter hitters were going out there and having success. So just to give you an idea, right? Like Patrick Reed's not that long. Henrik Stenson, certainly not that long. Kongwat is what I'm going to call him. He was, I don't know. I can't really tell you whether he's long or short. He had a few relatively long drives today, but they were like 310 yards, which wasn't anything that special. Obviously, bomber with DJ, Carlos Ortiz, relatively long. So you see a lot of longer hitters towards the top, but like Ian Poulter, right? Stenson, Reed, there's more than one way to get it done. So the guys that are going to be popular, you're probably going to see quite a few pivots from me, particularly because I haven't decided my exposure as of right now. It's either going to be one big single entry or it's going to be a 2 to 3 max or a 20 max. So I haven't decided, but it's not going to be a 150 max type of format for me. So I'm definitely going to try and be contrarian because I'm going to have limited bullets. I'm not going to have a full set of 150 to work with where I might be able to eat some chalk at 1 or 2 spots and pivot elsewhere. Probably going to have to, be a little bit more focused about it, right? A little bit more contrarian. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the guys I will be getting to. So first and foremost, Bryson. I'm going right back to the well. He shot even par today, but he was -2 through, I believe, 15 holes. Hit it in the water in 16, which completely derailed his round. And anytime the slapdicks on here are trying to build lineups by hand, there's not many optimizers out there for DraftKings LIV at this point. Not a lot of stats for you to go off of. A lot of people, the only thing that they know about Bryson today is that he shot even par. They don't know how many birdies he made. They have no idea how he looked out there on the golf course because in reality, it was beautiful golf. Like -2 through your first 15 rounds, 15 holes was like in the top 10, actually, I believe the top 5, perhaps even of the event. So somebody there who is definitely underrated from that department. He's at the top of the leaderboard. And like I mentioned, DJ going to get a lot of attention. Same thing with somebody like Patrick Reed. If you're looking for that inherent ownership leverage, take a Taylor Gooch, take a Bryson, take somebody like an Abraham Answer. All of them are more than adequate plays. Just for me, the one that I see myself getting to the most there is going to be a Bryson DeChambeau. You do have a Answer. He hit the ball good on approach today, so I think he's worth a special shout out as a potential second man in there. Moving down to the 9K range, though, I could see myself getting some Paul Casey, right? He's kind of just getting by at this point. With his ball striking, I could very well see him having a solid day. Now, more of the putting build, I talked about Louis Oosthuizen a bit. He shot +2, but now he's a lot cheaper than he was in round one. He was like $10,000 because he's over par. I hope that keeps enough people off him where he's not going to be like 30% owned because at $9,200, he should be a lot more expensive than he is. I mean, he should probably still be at least $10,000, right? He's one of the best players in the field. So I'll definitely be getting Louis Oosthuizen here for Saturday Showdown. Round 2 there at the LIV Golf event. Let's see. Let's take a look at this AK range here because it starts to get really ugly here really quickly, guys. So we're going to slow down here, trying to identify at least 3 to 4 guys here in the AK range that I see myself getting to. There's a freaking bug in here. My bad, guys. There's a little fly flying around my little camera here, and it's really bugging me. Hopefully that gets it out of here. It stops being a little slapdick in front of the camera. Let's go ahead and talk about this 8K range. So we talked about some of the studs. Love Louis. Love myself some Bryson. Perhaps even Abraham Answer or Paul Casey. But in the 8K range, I'm going to be building a lot of my lineups in this range, right? Taking one of those guys up top and probably taking at least 2 to 3 guys here in the 8K range. So let's go ahead and really focus on it. And outside of somebody like Hal the Third and Carlos Ortiz, I mean, you're going to be looking at relatively low-owned plays. Like, you're not going to see that many people get to somebody like Wolf. Not that many that play as Sergio Garcia. They'll be like 15% owned, something in that range there tomorrow. Kevin Na is probably going to be like 10 to 15% owned. I mean, pretty much give me any of these guys. Like, all of them have more than enough ability to get to their ceiling. First off, Wolf and Garcia, they have the off the tee play in the distance that take advantage of this golf course. And then Kevin Na's got the putter, right? He can kind of fit that Stenson build or even a Patrick Reed build where he's got to go out there and hit some darts, right? He's a great approach player. Before he left the PGA Tour, was top 5 on the PGA Tour in terms of shots gained approach there in the spring season. So I like that a lot from Kevin Na. I'm going to be fading Hal the Third and Carlos Ortiz. Like I said, I think they'll be chalky because of their round 1 performance. You could get to somebody like a Duplessis, who today, I believe, made 5 birdies on his round, but ended up shooting 5 over par. He had a bunch of double bogeys, all that sort of fun stuff. So if you expect Duplessis to go out there and actually clean up the scorecard, obviously he could go out there and have the round of the day. He's more than capable of doing so. And he kind of seems like that player because at the first 2 events, he had rounds where he'd shoot like 4 to 5 under par and then like 3 to 4 over par. And he almost always makes at least 4 to 5 birdies. Like, he's just a very volatile player, extremely aggressive, is not holding back whatsoever when it comes to his aggressiveness, where he's aiming at pins. I like that with showdown plays. So Duplessis was a little bit disappointing, obviously. Still made plenty of birdies, so it wasn't all that much of a disaster when it came to the showdown scoring. But I do think it'll be relatively low owned because of that. So $8,100, maybe worth a few looks there too. Sam Horsfield also fits that description. Now, he shot -1, so he's in the top 15, but I don't think he's going to get a bunch of attention. On the European Tour, he was an absolute stud before joining the DP World. Not the DP World Tour, before joining the LIV Tour here. Moving down to the 7K range now. Pat Perez had himself a start to the tournament, but he fell off. I'm not really so sold on him going forward. Ian Poulter, I have no interest in playing at -3. I think he'll get some attention, and he is completely putting dependent. And if he's going to be chalky, I'm not comfortable taking that and much rather prefer a ball striker and somebody who's getting it done with the putting. We have Lee Westwood, who's going to be a little bit chalky. Obviously, Henrik Stenson's going to be a fade at -7. Moving down to the bottom of the 7K range. So this, middle of the 7K, a little bit chalkier than I'd like, particularly some of the guys that are a little bit under par. But towards the bottom of the 7K, first off, Saddam is an absolute stud, right? He almost won the Open Championship, for goodness sakes. He was that guy on Sunday, that amateur who was absolutely going off. Saddam there at +5. Hopefully he's relatively low owned because of that. I mean, I could see him being like 1 to 2% owned there. Could be an absolute stud. So I will be playing Saddam, that's for sure. He's shown us plenty of upside. I'll be playing Scott Vincent. He's consistently been pretty good on the LIV Tour. Also made the cut at the Open Championship, has played a few times on the PGA Tour, made the cut at the Zozo Championship there in the fall swing. Scott Vincent, just a high pedigree player I'm getting to. Let's see. I won't be playing Phil, that's for sure. Chikara is a great ball striker, just got to get that putter working. The announcers were kind of alluding to that, where if he can just go out there and even just be an average putter, I mean, he can be a great player, let alone if he gains to the field. So kind of like that Will Zalatoris mold where, he's just that great ball striker. You hope luck sacks into that ceiling performance. If Chikara does that, could shoot someone like 6 to 7 under par. So I'll be there. I think he's a great pivot off of a Kong there, who's there at -5. He'll be super chalky. Imamori is a great player. He hits the ball unbelievably straight. So he kind of reminds me of a Henrik Stenson, where he's not the longest player, hits a lot of 3-woods. In fact, really tees, he lays up off the tee quite a bit with the 3-wood rather than a driver. But he's a great iron player, a great long iron player too, kind of like a Henrik Stenson. So maybe Inamori ends up getting to something like a ceiling performance. Let's see, James Pio at +2. I could see myself getting there. He's got plenty of length for the golf course. And lastly, I mean, even Jediah Morgan at +6, honestly, I wouldn't hate playing. He's $6,000. He opens up a lot of flexibility up top. If you wanted to play a Bryson, an Answer, a Paul Casey, and a Louis Oosthuizen together, you probably have to play a Jediah Morgan. Somebody down there on almost the bare minimum, right? So, I mean, let's look at it, right? Let's see what that type of lineup looked like. Can you make it work? I'm pretty sure you can. Let's see. No, not even close. I'm shot, boys. So you can play at least 3 of them up top, right? So 3 guys there in like the 10K plus range. If you take somebody like a Jediah Morgan, you can't play 4 of them though. What was I thinking, right? That's $40,000 of your salary. How are you going to fit in 2 more players? But it does give you plenty of salary flexibility there. So it's maybe worth exploring. He's a high upside player. A lot of the Australians out there, a lot of the international community will know about somebody like Jediah Morgan. They'll know a lot about guys like a Travis Smith, for example, who's from Australia. Wade Ormsey is from Australia. A lot of people will know about him too. These are guys that are worth taking shots on. Now, I can't mention everyone in the field, right? I still got to keep some of the plays behind the veil because I'm playing against y'all. But what I'm really trying to do here for this round is take shots on guys that have high pedigrees that didn't play all that well in round 1, right? Like, it's nothing against Kong. Like, obviously, he's a pretty good player. It's nothing against, let's just just score by score. It's nothing against Patrick Reed. It's nothing against Dustin Johnson, Carlos Ortiz, or Brooks Koepka. I love all of them. I think they model particularly well, particularly guys like Koepka and DJ. I mean, even Carlos Ortiz, right? We talked about them yesterday going into round 1. I'm not going to play them when they're 30% owned. And you're going to see like 30, 25% on the very least on maybe everybody here except for Kong in terms of ownership. Like, they're going to be the chalk of all chalk tomorrow. I mean, I think if you just fade everybody from Koepka up right here, I mean, maybe even include, let's go the whole way down here to Keimer, the whole way up here. You just fade, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, these 9 players. You'll be good in terms of ownership. You can just pick and choose best available from whatever it is, the last 39 players from the field, and make your lineups or whatever it is. Sorry, it's 54 players in the field, so the last 45 guys in the field, and just make the best players available. Let's go ahead and talk through some questions. Also, maybe go through some lineups afterwards in terms of the LIV Golf stuff. Let's see what we got down there. So we have Jeffrey says, I'm still kind of mind fucked of Bryson going to LIV. I feel like the PGA needs him. I agree with that sentiment. Like, it kind of feels weird. I just hope the major championships don't get ruined. Like, if we can still have major championships, we get all the players together, maybe even like a Ryder Cup type of format where we can get the PGA Tour players and the LIV Golf players together. I would really enjoy that. But yeah, it kind of feels a little bit weird, but I think it'll be good for golf in the long run. Now, I'm going to get criticized for this. I've said this before. I think the LIV Golf Tour gives us options as a consumer, but more than anything, it gives the PGA Tour players leverage. Like, they're getting paid more now. You have the huge purse thing that they're adding to the schedule in the fall where they're playing for like $20 million purses. That wasn't going to happen before. Obviously, the LIV Tour made that happen. And in general, I think the treatment that caddies are getting, the fact that families are being flown out to events, being allowed to stay in person, interact with the players on property is a big deal for them, right? That's going to be a huge morale boost, not only for the players, but the caddies and the families. That's going to pay dividends, right? Players on the PGA Tour, they might start demanding that because frankly, they deserve it. They deserve to have their family around, right? They don't have to travel around the country. If they can go somewhere else and have that accommodated for them, right? That's a huge deal for a lot of these family guys. So I think it has positive effects. So yeah, it feels weird. That's for sure. I love Bryson. He was one of my favorite players on tour before he left. But hopefully it has a good outcome. I like the fact that we get more to bet on. I like the fact that we get extra tournaments to watch, right? So it at least has that effect. Ibrahim says, can I just fade Henrik Stenson for the rest of the tournament? Yes, I think so. I think it makes a lot of sense to fade him. I think Patrick Reed's probably a fade. Kong is certainly a fade. Probably Carlos Ortiz. You could make an argument for playing DJ or Brooks. Like I said, Bombers should definitely play well around this golf course. So I don't think they're completely out of play. I mean, even a Charles Howell III, I don't think is completely out of play. But these shorter hitters, right? Like a Poulter, Stenson, and Reed, there's a reason why they're numbered towards the top. I mean, Kokrak's relatively long. Westwood's relatively long. Chase Koepka's long. Travis Smith is extremely long off the tee. Wolf, right? There's a lot more bombers at the top than there are guys that are short off the tee. And I don't think that's by mistake. So yeah, I think you can fade Stenson pretty comfortably going forward. Big Tech says Discord is the shit. That's for sure. We have a lot of fun down there. We talk a lot of shit about players. That's for sure. And I know you're way behind on the stream. That's okay. Yeah, don't worry. We'll get you caught up when you get here to when we're talking about your comments. Go ahead and comment down below again. Why not, right? Go ahead and add to it. But let's go ahead and wrap that up here, guys. That's all I've got here. We went live for an hour and a half, which is way longer than I anticipated, but wanted to give you the full slate of content, right? I'm not going to cut it short. I'm going to give you all the thoughts that I think you need. And we were covering 2 slates, right? We had the PGA and the LIV Tour side. So probably going to take longer as a result. But I appreciate all of you stopping by, showing the support that you guys have throughout the video. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of this, feel a little bit more comfortable going into tomorrow's slate than you did before. But in either circumstance, best of luck with your lineups here. We will be doing the same thing for round 4. So round 4 at the Rocket Mortgage, also round 3 at the LIV Golf Tour event. I'm anticipating going live right around 8 p.m. tomorrow. So because of the cut line, being established, we won't have to wait nearly as long for a lot of the data. So I'll have projections up a lot sooner than I did today. So let's go ahead and say 8 p.m. for tomorrow's stream. So expect that. There will be a prize picks video dropping out in a little bit for both the LIV Golf and the PGA side. So look forward to that. And of course, if you're on the Patreon already, or if you're not already, first off, get in there. I would highly recommend it. We'll be dropping our picks for Patreon down there for prize picks and any changes to the Showdown stuff there too. So look out for any updates. But best of luck, like I said, guys. Thank you for all the support, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.